As a reminder, we are recording and we are live via Google Meet. Roll call, please.
Bradford. Hicks.
Here.
Janeski. Lynn.
Here.
Ludwig. Here. Plattner.
Here.
Smith.
Here. We're going to discuss working cash funds.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Smith. So the purpose of our public hearing tonight that we noticed on June 29th of 2021 is in regards to working cash fund bonds. And this is the public hearing for such. The purpose tonight, what we're doing is we're giving information and the public an opportunity to ask questions in regards to our intent later in our regular board meeting to move forward with selling of bonds. What does that mean? We're looking at selling approximately $3 billion in working cash fund bonds for the purpose of increasing the working cash fund of the district. Why are we doing that? This ties in with the federal funding that we have received from the government in ESSER money, approximately 2.2 to 2.5 million. And with that being said, that basically has motivated us to start looking at some building construction at the grade school. And it's going to take more than that to fund the project, but it certainly is a great boost to help get us moving on something that's been talked about for quite some time for the best interest of our students and community. So that being said, to help complete that project, I've been working with our bond agent, Mr. David Pistorius from First Midstate, and he has shared the schedule that I presented at our last meeting that shows that we could do this selling of bonds that would just extend our current bond payment of our bond and interest levy, and it would just extend it 4 more years for this amount. It would not be an increase to the taxpayers. It would be the same amount, and we would just draw it out another 4 years to make this happen, okay? So that's a little bit of the background on what we have tonight, and other than that, it's just a matter of an opportunity for public comment or any questions that the board members may have.
Is there any public comment? Board members, do you have any questions? We've discussed this a few times.
Yep.
With that,
When we get to the regular board meeting, I'll be making a recommendation for the board, and what we would be doing in that part of the meeting would basically just establishing our intent to do this. There is a petition period that is available to the public, and I have those petitions in my office in case someone wants to come and talk about what we're doing. I can give them the petition. I can also explain a little bit more with our public, but that's a 30-day petition period by law. So that's available to our public. This is not something, because we're working with the working cash fund, we do not have to do referendum and that type of thing, because this is not going to be tying into any new construction. It's simply renovation. So, thank you.
any additional questions? With that, need a motion to close the public hearing at 5:20 p.m. Motion.
So moved.
Ms. Ludwig.
Second.
Mr. Plattner, second. Roll call.
Motion by Ludwig, seconded by Plattner to adjourn at 5:20 p.m. Hicks.
Here.
Janeski.
Here and yes.
Lynn.
Here.
Ludwig. Yes. Plattner.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 1.
Okay. Take a recess until 5:30.
That's correct.
Okay, I will stop the recording here.
We'll go ahead and call to order this regular meeting, July meeting, the Oakwood Unit 76 Board of Education. As a reminder, we are live streaming this and recording the meeting. And I'd like to have a roll call, please.
Bradford. Hicks.
Here.
Janeski.
Yes.
Lynn.
Here.
Ludwig. Here. Plattner.
Yes, here.
Smith.
Here. Stand to join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to take a moment to recognize our guests tonight. Thank you for coming. Mr. Mink, do you have any notices or communications first?
We have one communication here tonight, which I will lay up here for the board members to look at later if you'd like. This is from Luann Picklap, who just retired, and she sent a thank you card to the board. I'll let you read it, but basically it was just a very sweet card to the school district to say how much she has appreciated her time at the Oakwood School District and how much she has valued her time here. And it's just a really sweet card. So I'll lay it over here so you can take a look at that before you leave tonight. So Ms. Picklap just retired honorably, and she'll be greatly missed.
Mr. Ranger? I believe we have a guest that has public comment.
I think Ms. Brown. I think this is.
Hello.
Hi.
Good evening. I am Marissa Brown, and I have been a resident of Oakwood District for 15 years. We have 3 children. One will be going into 5th grade, the other into kindergarten, and we just had a son. We love our community, and we are so grateful for such a wonderful school district. First, I want to thank each of you for your time, dedication, and service to the kids represented in our district. Without volunteers and the service of our community, we would not have a great school. Second, I want to thank you for keeping our schools open last year. Even with the challenges and the time-consuming efforts, those of us here appreciate the effort that was taken. Masks are an obvious topic of school boards around the country. It is our wish here at Oakwood to be unmasked this year. Even those not vaccinated, due to the level of discrimination that comes by masking those who have made different choices than others. We constantly hash out the topic of bullying with our students from a young age, and we set up this type of atmosphere. It'll cause dissension between students and staff. We are in favor of giving parents the personal choice as to whether or not their child wears a mask. And by all means, if someone needs to wear one, then of course that is fine. Just don't mask our healthy kids. As to what this fall winter brings, sickness, just like it did prior to the 2020 so-called pandemic. I personally feel like this nation has forgot that it is okay to get sick. Actually, it is good for our bodies to get sick and build immunity. We quite possibly will see a rise in sickness due to the masking of our kids and staff last year. Immunity was decimated in so many ways. We are asking, please don't mask our kids during this year. Please, for the sake of their health and our community's health, let them be. We fully understand the pressure from IDPH and the governor. So we collectively ask that you take this group of parents and possibly more and use us to take a stand. Direct us on what we need to do. Waivers, petitions, lawyers. There are those of us here that are willing to do this for our kids. We want to enjoy the freedoms that from being an American. Masking does the opposite of that. Sure, they stress, well, if you love others, it's just a convoluted way to gain control. We saw it last year in so many ways. And let's stop this before it starts again. Please support us. Support what we want for our kids. I know that it gets hard in your positions as a board member, but that is why you took the job, right? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Good.
Yeah, thank you. We'll be discussing that later on. So during this time, we usually don't comment back because this is just your time to talk to us. And then here shortly, we'll have
So I guess, so I just ask you questions about now, or that's all I have on my paper?
You're welcome to ask a question, and I'm happy to try to respond if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to know, like, first I want to know how the numbers came back from the poll that was sent out to all the parents.
Okay. Got that here. Okay. The parent survey came back 83.7%, basically wanted math to be optional. Okay. So that was a 381 responses, okay, that we received on that survey. So, which is good. Always like for more, but that was a good response, I think. So basically, approximately 84% of the parents are saying mask optional for students and staff, regardless of vaccine status. Wanting us to be, I also read all the comments. It took a while to read 381 responses, but it was very valuable. The information I received there was back to normal full days and schedules of 8 to 3. So getting back to the typical days we had before all this chaos. Continuing with the daily Pledge of Allegiance, continuing with character education of dignity and respect for all individuals, continue teaching the Illinois Learning Standards instead of the Common Core curriculum that was years ago. Return field trips this year for our students. I got information about no critical race theory taught in schools. That's another hot topic that is flowing throughout our nation. And then I also, and these are just some highlights, from all those. One other one that I picked up was no sex education below grades 5 and 6 taught in our schools. So those are just some highlights from all of that and a little bit of a summary. It's very valuable information, and I really appreciate getting the response that we did in a short time. And even in the summer, it can be hard. So, and I appreciate you being here tonight as well. I will just share with you that if it's okay, obviously we've been working very hard on our return to school plan, and some of the steps that we took before we got the guidance from the governor and IDPH was I sent the survey out to parents. I surveyed out to the staff to kind of get their feelings on it, just so I kind of have a gauge of where people are leaning, on this. And then working through all of the guidance for the IDPH, as well as, messed with the CDC, but the Illinois State Board of Education, kind of what's coming at us there. We had a meeting, I think it was, when I say we, the superintendents of Vermilion County had a meeting at the Regional Office of Education. I think it was last Thursday, might have been Friday, I can't remember. And we met for about 4 hours together as a group to talk about our return to school plan. What are people thinking? How do you feel like your communities are leaning, and the interest? And then we also spent, in that 4 hours, we had 2 attorneys there from 2 different firms kind of giving us some guidance on what we could do to not only have the safest plan possible, but also to not do anything that would basically reduce our tort liability shield, as much as possible as well for our school district and that type of thing. So I think that was all very valuable. I'll be sharing a little bit more information a little bit later on about some things that kind of came out of that. But I have put together a plan that is very similar to all of us schools. We're kind of all moving the same direction right now on things with that topic and more. And so we're trying to move as a pack, because there's not like there's a wall around Oakwood or Armstrong. We're Vermilion County. People are connected, people are related, people know what's going on, people work here and there. So we're trying to move as a county, as a pack, and I feel good about that. I think that strengthens us and allows us to problem solve better also. But with that being said, we have a pretty full version document together that I just finished yesterday that we're running through the grid now to get as many eyes on it as we can. And I've shared that with the board, so they've had a chance to see it. I've shared it with our administrative team who have come alongside me to help me with writing this. So it's been a collaboration in many ways. And also our nurses. And I had a chance to share it with Mr. Johnson, our association president, so that he has a chance to look at it as well. And we've had some conversation about it. So I feel like that we're all moving forward and giving everybody a chance to lay eyes on it and to listen and learn as we're doing this. And I'm hopeful that with registration being August the 4th, I'm hopeful that we'll get that document out pretty quickly. We're kind of hesitant because we're hearing there may be some new information coming, and I don't want to get it out too soon and then have to pull back and redo it. That can create some anxiety. So we're trying to make sure we're really in a strong position before we get all that out. But our goal is that we would have this information communicated to our staff and our community no later than August 1st. So that's what we're working on right now. So it's kind of under review right now. And I was able to share it with the local health department today too, just so they know what we're doing as well. So that's a lot of information. Probably is going to cut down my report later, which is great. But I wanted to give you respect and let you know, just out of courtesy, this is what we're doing. And I'll tell you right now, that plan laid out is basically, as the guidance says, it's recommended, for those that are not vaccinated, but we're moving in that document towards things being optional and having local control take its place, and then reading the transmission rates that are going on in the area and letting the science kind of guide us on that, being ready to be flexible and to pivot when we need to, social distance as much as we can when we can, but at no way do we want anything to impact the learning. We want to get back to teaching and learning, with our kids as much as we can. So in general, that's kind of where things are at right now, but nothing's been adopted or approved yet. But that is basically how we're trying to move this right now. Does that help a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Feels better hearing it like that, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, and we're not interested in doing anything that is going to start separating, segregating, and dividing people out, staff or students, whether they've been vaccinated or unvaccinated. We're going to go with an honor system, is what I'm recommending. And because I don't want to be in a position as a superintendent where we're doing things that would create more divisiveness. We're on the home team. So let's try to do some things with dignity and respect, keep doing things that way. So nothing's final yet, but that's the track that we're on at this point. And obviously it'll be our Board of Education that will direct me on the things that they feel are necessary or what we may be missing. And I need some time to revise and make that a good plan that's good for our community, our school district, our staff, and our students. And we're committed. We're going to do our best. Okay?
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 4, consent agenda. Did everybody have a chance to review the consent agenda? Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Ms. Ludwig? Second?
Second.
Mr. Janeski? Roll call, please.
Motion by Ludwig, seconded by Janeski, to approve the consent agenda items as submitted. Hicks,
Yes.
Janeski,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Ludwig. Yes. Plattner, Smith.
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call. Roll call vote, Plattner.
Agenda item number 5, Oakwood Education Association. Mr. Johnson?
I have nothing for you.
Thank you. Committee reports, policy.
Okay, just wanted to remind the board that we have, with our system that we're in of online renewals and keeping our board policy manual up to date, so we don't have to go through like we did last year and just redo everything for hours and hours. We are on a cycle of a 5-year automated system of renewal with our online system. So that means every policy that we have is going to be brought up for review within 5 years so that it can be looked at to see if we like it, we want to change something, or it's old and it's outdated, it needs to be removed. And it gives you as a board an opportunity to do that, so that way we don't have to wonder, has this policy ever been looked at or reviewed? So we are on that. So there are a lot of things in the packet that I put in there for you to look at. Technically, the board policy committee for the board is Mr. Janeski, Mrs. Hicks, and Mr. Bradford, but I would just encourage all board members to look through that. There are not a lot of big changes in that policy, but this is the meeting for the first review. And so I'd like to come back at the next meeting then, if you've had a time to really look at it or ask questions tonight, then we could adopt those next week and I can get those uploaded in our system. So,
Thank you, Mr. Maynard.
thank you.
Agenda item 7, administrative reports. Mr. Maynard.
Okay, gosh, I should have rearranged this agenda so I could have took a breath here for a minute. Didn't do that real well. All right, well, first of all, I want to say that I'm excited for the village. We've got a new person that has come on board, and Officer Soderstrom has contacted me. I'll be meeting with them tomorrow, and so we'll be have a new student resource officer for our school district coming up to next year. I think her name is Misty Smitley. I may be saying that wrong, but I'll be meeting with them tomorrow for the get together and just kind of talk about our school district and resources that we're going to partner on. That'll be tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. So excited about that. Strategic planning. Happy to say that the core stakeholder team is coming together very well. We're pretty much complete as far as we've got a lot of good community input. We've got a couple of students from the high school. We've got representation in each of our buildings, as well as the board and administrative team. One of the things that I am still pursuing and seeking is that since we are on the front end of this, looking at building a new facility for our junior high students, I'm really pursuing and seeking some representation from our junior high staff. I just think that's critical moving forward. We do have our building principal there. I've been reaching out, making a few phone calls, and so we're just trying to do some recruiting to get some good representation there. And I think we'll get it. Summer's a hard time sometimes to get a hold of people, but I just really feel like that's essential to get a junior high staff voice on there as well. And yeah, so that's kind of where we're at on the stakeholder team. Everyone has been communicated with. We've got some dates tentatively set. The first one is August 25th, I believe. So should be aware of that. And we'll be meeting at the grade school in the multi-purpose room. I know that sounds like a lot of people on a team, but what will happen is those 27, 28 people will break off into 5 subgroups and be addressing about 5 different categories. So that'll be a smaller subcommittee of that. We'll be reporting out as we go. The other thing that I probably need to talk about right now that's tying in with this would be an update on Amoresco and the designs. Okay, so I sent you information. I just got this last night. Okay, so I sent this out to you and your board packet, but I also printed off a hard copy for you to look at. And if you don't mind, I'll just go ahead and just kind of get a few talking points related to that. Okay, since we're still talking about strategic planning. So if you want to look on the first page, which is option 1. So what you have here, we've been having a lot of healthy conversation, and we have went from 7 or 8 designs, I think, and now as the board spoke at the last meeting, there was a real interest in making sure we had more classrooms, and there was a lot of talk about an interest in a second level and that type of thing. So this first option before you is really everything that I think we left the room with last time that you had asked for. Okay. And you can see there about the number of classrooms, 2 floors, and that type of thing. It's pretty spelled out. Obviously, this has a lot of space, but it extends us way beyond what our budget is and what we've been looking at a 5.5. Part of what's happening here is that each day that goes by, costs are going up right now, and steel is really skyrocketing, and that is impacting a lot of what's going on here. So one of the things that we have with Amoresco is once we do make a decision and lock in, we're there, irregardless of the inflation, so to speak. So I think this is what I hope I think I heard the board ask for from our previous discussion, wanting more space, looking for a couple stories. It does cost a lot more money, obviously, than what we had initially planned. It exceeds our budget and exceeds our bonding capacity. I will say I made a call to our bond agent because I wanted to anticipate a question of if this was the option that the board wants us to choose, which is a lot further exceeding what we had originally planned. What does that do with the bonding? We're looking at 3 million tonight, and obviously we would need a whole lot more than that. He said it would just extend us out more years at the same rate, which that surprised me a little bit, but that's what he told me today on the phone. So I want to be fully transparent, with all the information for you about that. One of the things I wanted to know was that I thought would be important is what is going to be the cost of the second level of the 2 stairwells, the elevator, okay, and how that plays in here. And it's $750,000 is what it costs to do the 2 stairwells and the elevator. Okay, so of the money that we are getting, let's just say the ESSER funds of 2.2 to 2.4, 750,000 of that immediately is going to go right to that to take care of that. They did mention to me that they are having trouble right now across the country with the steel situation being limited and on back order, and because of that, there is a huge layover they're seeing right now with elevators. What does that mean? You're looking at an extra year. So instead of having something completed from our conversation today, starting this fall, being done, ready to go next year, you're looking at a whole nother year because of the elevator is what they told me today. Okay. Let's see here. I think this originally, when we first started having the conversation about this design, was, if you remember, was probably about a 5.9 million project. Okay, so it was a little bit more than what we're budgeting, and already in the last month, now we're at almost 6.3. So it kind of gives you an idea of what's taking place at this point. So I'm just going to kind of pause there. That's option 1. I wanted to try to present to you what I thought you were asking from our last meeting to start with. Option 2 and 3 are some other conversations that I had with Amoresco along with Michelle Kimbrough and Chris Richardson last Friday afternoon. Okay, so I wanted to be able to have some options for you. So any questions, comments, thoughts that I can try to answer on option 1? Okay.
You talk about your bonding power. Can you tell me where we are with that?
Yeah, our bonding capacity, I've got it written down in there, but we're still way under that. We're in good shape on that. I can give you the exact information after the meeting. I don't have it in front of me right now, but our bond debt capacity is way above what we're asking.
Okay.
So.
In earlier discussions, 11 classrooms gives us the same we have now, right?
We have 10 right now.
Okay.
And we have 10 classrooms, and that, help me out, Michelle, that kind of includes our library too. Is that right?
Is the library 11?
I almost recall it being 8, and then we added on the library and the.
So the library would be 10.
Library.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought the previous discussions was 11 was the minimum we thought we would
It was,
look at.
yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's correct. Okay. It's okay to go to option 2?
Mhm.
Okay. All right, so what happened with option 2 was I said, okay, we've been talking about 2 stories. We want to make sure we've got an opportunity for growth. How do we do that and still maintain our budget? So that's what you have here. So what that means is basically for them to meet the budget with the 2-story, we would only have 8 new classrooms on 2 floors, an additional band room, which would take us to 9, And there's some information about restrooms and elevator and stairwell and so forth. I think this option was provided just basically because of that interest of 2 stories and trying to keep, within the budget. The elevator lead time still again puts us another year out because this is a 2-story. We still need the $750,000 for the stairwells and elevator, classrooms, and we would still need, it looks like, beyond this, we would still need another $800,000 today. It'll probably be more, in another year or 2, right? So we would still need another $800,000 to really finish this project. And I think some of the drawbacks on option 2, even though it meets the budget, is that we didn't gain anything. We didn't gain rooms. And when are we going to get this extra $800,000 or more down the road? And now we've kind of got an unfinished project, which is not good. That's kind of the downside of 2. That's how I see it. Okay. So, but that's why that's in here. And that's kind of what motivated us to try to figure out what that would look like. Any questions about option 2?
So option 2, the playground remains, but we put a corridor on the,
It's just a long hallway.
yeah, just a long hallway around.
So for phase 2 or the completion of this one to match option 1, that's where they would build. But the outside surface, she said, would still be ready to go, and then we would just build in from the hallway.
This does allow for future growth.
It does. In
But-
that particular section, so that's why that is there. It
And,
is a long hallway.
yeah, in the interim, we have an awkward hallway that.
One of the things I'll talk about here in a minute too, with all 3 of these options, this past year, as you know, we have a preschool for all grant. Okay. So with that preschool for all grant this past year with the COVID situation, we did not transport our preschool kids. Okay. So there was money left over in our grant. And I've got some ideas with that grant money that we're looking at and working on for whichever option that we choose. It's about $82,000 that we've got to claim within the before August 30th. So it's pretty tight, but we've got some ideas and I'll share that with you here in a minute. Okay. All right. So option 3, you've got the square footage. So got some notes here. So we're looking at 11 classrooms, and this is all one level. It also has an additional new band room, and you'll see that there kind of in the bottom left corner of the blue. That right now, that's like the equivalent of like 2 classrooms. Okay. So I don't know if we would need that much space for a band room. That'll be something that our committees will have to help us with and work out the details, but that's what you can see that room is really 2 classrooms without a separation in there. Okay. Renovation of the office, new security entrance. I know that we did not want students entering and exiting the building on the street for safety reasons on the north side there. So the entrance that we would work with Amoresco would be on the west side, which is what we're using now with our parent drop-off and that type of thing. So we'd be safer there. We wouldn't have to worry about this could be done, within that year. We wouldn't have to worry about the elevator delaying us another extra year. That $750,000 that you would not have to spend on your stairwells and your elevator now is captured into this project. And one of the things that Amoresco will do is they will build in typically a $300,000 within this amount. It's built in a $300,000 contingency. Now, what happens with that contingency, if it's not used in the project or any other money that's not used, they have told me, they come back to you and say, okay, you got all your contingency money, or you've got $200,000 left, or you've not only got your contingency, but you've got another $100,000 left. And so now they say, what do you want to do? And so in my mind, from what I've heard from the board, there's an interest maybe in, if we were to end up with some extra money like that, to be able to look at that other building area over there for storage, transportation, concession stand, and restrooms over by the soccer field there on that north side where we've got all that field. And you probably saw a tentative drawing of like a multi-purpose room gym type thing there. So I feel like we have more opportunity. I don't know if it'd have more of an opportunity in option 3 to maybe capture some of those funds to do more with maybe than we would the other project. So it's just a thought that I want to share with you. So hope that makes sense. Let me just share a little bit my notes here. So Michelle and Chris and I were double checking. We're looking at option 3 as a band room. You've got 8 regular classrooms. You've got a special education room. You've got a library. You've got a teacher's lounge, a workroom. We don't even our junior high, our staff don't even have a workroom, our teacher's lounge. We don't, we've got some of these other things, but that's something that we don't have. And I heard a lot about that when in terms of community and stuff, when I was meeting with the junior high staff, they're just so tight right now with things. So that essentially would give us what, your band room, your 8 classrooms, there's 9, a special ed room 10, library 11, a teacher's workroom, there's 12. Feel like that this might be a situation that could create the most space and maybe the most efficient use of our money. Stays better within our budget. The other thing is that when I look at this, I guess it draws up a question. Our two classrooms worth $800,000 and a delayed start of another year going with option 1. And I that's a good clarifying question. That was something that was brought out today when I was meeting with Michelle and Chris. They brought that out. I thought it was a great clarifying question because essentially that's kind of the defining question that we have before us potentially here between the two options. So
doesn't it create more than 700,000 when you assume that you're a year later getting your improved cost benefits of having them together? So isn't it really going to be something like an extra $200,000 both in how much more it would cost to keep two schools divided with extra expenses? I mean, we certainly
It will not
have.
be closing the junior high.
We certainly have we've got expenses gained by putting them together.
yes,
And I was under the assumption that this number could be anywhere from 200 to 400. I can't remember.
I think that's how Amoresco laid it out with some of their preliminary savings over the years that eventually would pay for itself, so to
that's
speak.
what I'm asking is,
Okay.
and rather than looking at it as a 750, you're really looking at it as $1 million cost because you're not getting those savings. You're waiting a year to get your savings.
It's a great point.
So I'd be even more option 3.
It's a great point.
I think your major issue here is, do you foresee 10, 15 years down the road needing the extra space? That's your question.
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to cost you. You always look at long-term or short-term, but long-term, if 10 years down the road, you're going to need more space, you're going to go do something else. It's cheaper to do it now. It will be then. But I don't know what your prospect is for growth.
Yeah. Well, either of these designs create a whole lot more space than we currently have. So there is growth here, but it's just really kind of how far you want to go. But yeah, you're right. I mean, we have to look at those things.
So my concern is the first plan puts the next plan, which the soccer and that, all the, plan 2 to move on down the road with the multi-purposing that just puts that well down the road.
Yeah.
When you discuss the alternative layout, an offset angle corridor, what are we talking about there? Does that affect square footage? Does that affect classrooms? What is that, the alternate layout?
I think it just means that you can't go out from one side and have it go directly and meet the end of the other side. That at some point it has to shift up to get into the building to end of the building.
Okay,
My understanding was they take option one, the
Mhm.
bottom floor, and add those band room and extra classrooms down there with
Yeah.
that angled hallway.
okay.
That was my understanding from that. So instead of straight across, you angle it across, which honestly might be better because we do want that entrance still on that west parking lot. We don't want it on the street there.
But it just evens up where you start at one, stop at the other. It's not a straight across where it is on the diagram. It just says it has to follow a little turn.
So one of the things we talked about today too is kind of tying in with what Mr. Janeski said. I said, okay, in the future, let's say we pulled an option 3 as our option that we were most interested in. I don't know if that's what we do, but let's say it was that one. What is the opportunity for growth there? There's no opportunity to go up with that one. But if you remember, there was a design that would be on the east side, would be on the northeast side on the parking lot there. They had a little section there where they had built something there. So we could go there down the road if we had to. That was in one of our other designs that they had presented. Does that make sense? It's hard to,
And I
Hard
think
to-
it had 4. I think it 3 in an office, or it could be
Yeah.
4, but we didn't like that one because it extended far into the parking lot, but they had another one where it was just a little,
that's right.
just a 3 or 4 in.
That's right.
That one gave 9. That one was like all of it over there
Yeah.
on that side, and then
But there
this
was
one,
like a
you're
little
right, that one
piece.
gives like 2, and maybe the office.
Yep.
Yeah,
It was just a little outshoot that kind of went on that corner.
So while you're kind of
But
thinking
what you're
through
saying,
this,
it does give us, we could have growth.
yeah, there still is a vision if we needed to do something, but that's where it would have to be. And at least we had a design earlier that showed that possibility. So one of the things that I'm looking at here, so you heard me talk about the $82,000 for the preschool. We have done a lot with our curriculum, our furniture, our technology. We are loaded up and ready to go well over the past several years in our preschool program. We need some work outdoors. And so I got approval to look at playground for preschool. Okay. So I've been talking with some vendors. I've been working with Amoresco so we can kind of tie all this thing in. So if you have, let's say, for example, I'll just use option 3 as an example, as it's closed off, because if for preschool you have to have fencing. Okay. It has to be a certain height. You got to have latches in certain places and that type of thing. If it's closed off over there and you just got your gate, to access in and out, then you don't have to worry about all the fencing and you save money there, which allows you to do a top of the line, state of the art, age 2 to 5 playground equipment that also is inclusive. Okay. Inclusive meaning I want to make sure that whatever we look at, and when we get to the details, that would involve the principals and the teachers and all that. I'm just kind of doing the fly over the forest. But they would, that would give us a situation. I want to have a situation where if we've got students of special needs, that they would have opportunities there that we don't really have well for them now. And I also mentioned that we have been talking since last spring we have a student in our grade school right now, and I remember having conversation with Mr. Glosser and Mr. Siddons and others and that are in the room here. And we talked about out there across the parking lot. So if you know where the soccer field is, where we play, south of that's where our playground is and our basketball goal. We would like to we have a vision for off of that driveway, so we don't have to go through grass and rocks and all that with kids that might be in a wheelchair or something of that nature, to build a track that would lead out to the playground area to help them to be more inclusive, and also something that would go around that area, like a walking path that would allow for the student to move themselves, allow for the aide that's with that student to be out there, and to do something more inclusive. And I think that is something that would really be great for our kids, our community, our school district. So I'm working with a vision and some drafting of those. So you've got two things, because with a project, some of that playground, we're losing some space, is going to have to be relocated. But if you've ever been back there in our playground area, if you ever come out for lunch duty, let me know. I'll be glad to hook you up, okay? But out there where the blacktop area is, that's probably an ideal area. We could really do some nice surface and things for our preschool kids, like a little play academy there for those kids. So that's new information that I just got within the last, 5 or 6 days. So I wanted to share that with you, because that's kind of folding in. It's kind of all lining up for us here with the work that we're trying to do. So I think tonight I want to give you a chance to ask questions. I'll do my best for you. I know Diana Vargas is tied in here right now tonight, so if we needed to call her, I'm sure she would take the call. I want to just kind of share a few things and make sure that Chris or Michelle, who've kind of been in these conversations with me, in case I've missed something tonight. But one of the things that we need tonight is we really need to determine it as a Board of Education an option. We really need to pretty much start to nail this down, because things are getting away from us financially and from a timeline. And so it doesn't mean we have to adopt or approve anything tonight. That can come later, but at least having an understanding, helping me to know what your interest is, so that I can help Diana and their team from Amoresco move forward, so that we can lock in on some things and some prices. And then also, I think then after that, that's when we need to engage our buildings committee here from the board, our finance committee from the board, and get them engaged in fleshing out some of the details and interest once we know what design we're leaning towards. Okay? So that's what I'm hoping for tonight. But Michelle, is there anything that I think we covered it? Okay. Chris, anything? Okay. Okay. That's all I have then, and happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
Ask a quick question.
Yes, sir.
This is all supposed to be, you plan on this all being bond funded or part of it with ESSER?
Yeah, we have 2.5 million that we've been presented, okay?
Okay, thanks.
And we're looking at, by the time of some of the restrictions that we have and what we have to do with that ESSER money, we should be anywhere from 2.2 to 2.4 ESSER money. And then we would bond out the 3 million, which would put us right at the cost. Yes, sir.
I do have a question, or a concern rather. So with the gym, will the junior high and the grade school be having to share that? Because I know Mr. Glosser has classes like all day long. There's hardly any availability in there. Like, will that shorten the gym times, or how will that work bringing the junior high?
No, that's a great question, because a lot of this will tie into scheduling. And so I know that Ms. LaPennis has been involved in this, and Mrs. Acton, so they know, they're totally in, they're not here tonight, but they're in the know, and they're looking at all their scheduling as far as lunches and phys ed and specials and all that. And they're communicating that, hey, we can make this work, we can make this happen, but I don't have the details on that. That'll be something that would come with their input. We did make a decision in terms of extracurriculars this past spring about strengthening our programs by going 6 through 8 with our kids to provide more opportunities for them as well. So, but those are some things, some of the details we'll have to work out moving forward, depending on what we do here. So,
The administrators who I usually pick on at this time aren't here. Did you have an opportunity to speak to them about what their thoughts were on these options?
About with who?
The, Ms. Lepenes.
We have, I'm trying to think here, the last conversation. So I don't think they've seen this one yet, have they? Because we just got this one last night.
Yeah, I didn't see
So yeah, so I've got to share this with them, but I didn't get these till last night, sorry. So they have not seen them yet. So I need to get it out to them. I had a copy for them tonight and also to Mrs. Burton as well.
I'd be curious to see what their thoughts are about that playground. In option 3.
Yeah, they did know about we did talk about the preschool yesterday in our meeting, didn't
We
we?
did. And they've been working with PTO, so they're gonna get with them and talk with them. But once it's kind of decided, it'll be in there, they'll be the ones to work with Amoresco to decide what they want.
Mr. Mayor, at what point in the meeting do you hope to accomplish the?
Tonight?
At what point? Later in discussion, right now?
I think while we're on the topic, I don't want to rush anybody's thinking in this, but at some point in time tonight, and since we're on the topic, I do need a little bit of direction in some way.
Let's get to it then.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so, my quick math here, on option number 1, which is the most expensive, when we divide the total price by the square foot that we get, the cost of that square footage is $275 per square foot. Most average commercial properties are in that $300 to $350 per square foot to build. But it's not a bad option. Option 2, to achieve 13,000 overall square feet is at a cost of $429 per square foot. It jumps up pretty dramatically. Option 3, when we divide 5.5 million, almost 5.6 million by 15,000 square foot, that's $372,000 a square foot.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm not in support of any option that gets us exactly what we already have. And I am in support of an option that maximizes what we get for what we're spending.
Okay.
So I would only support option 1.
Option 1? Okay. And that was the one that had the least per square foot. You said
No,
275.
option 1 is the one that, at least price, the least price per square foot.
Yeah.
When we start to look at the delay that we're concerned about, the elevator, build the shaft, ward it off, and carry stuff up the stairs and start school.
Won't be able to do that.
Can't board off an
Can't do
elevator.
No, you won't, you have to have the accessibility to the second floor.
Accessibility.
Yeah,
And don't use the top 2 floors for 1 year. We still have more than enough classrooms in that other option, don't we? Nope, we lose too many, don't we?
Yeah, no,
Thank you.
Put a lift along the stairs.
I missed the number you gave exactly on, because you know this stuff better than I do. What is the
About 300
number
to
for,
350 is pretty standard.
about
commercial,
350?
Yeah,
thank you.
price per square foot,
Is that for the 23,000 or the 17,000?
23,000 overall square foot. All my calculations were based on
Overall
overall square foot,
versus
not
classroom.
classroom square foot.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Janeski, your thoughts? Mr. Lynn?
Well, based on that, and I think everybody thought option 2 is definitely off the board, but I still lean toward option 3 because I think it puts a lot of other needs too far down the road when you spend this money. Again, the question over there is scheduling something and taking care of somebody's needs are 2 different things. And I have no doubt that they can schedule that gym space, but by scheduling it, there's gonna be people you're gonna say no to. Did you say no to people now with the junior high gym? And there's gonna be a lot of people that somebody's gonna say, yeah, we scheduled it. Well, we got rid of 5th and 6th grade basketball and moved 6th up to 7th and 8th. That didn't necessarily, all these 5th and 6th graders eventually that want to play basketball, we said we'd revisit it. We closed that gym, we closed the junior high, and then we promised that we would revisit. We're gonna go back to revisit and say, there's no room to do that. Or somebody's gonna come back and say, we'll schedule it. And once you schedule it, you're just gonna lose, the answer's gonna be, no, we don't have room for it. So, my fear is to spend too much money on option 1 that runs that multi-purpose room and everything just too far down the road. So that's why I lean to option 3.
Where does the gym go in option 3?
It doesn't, you just got an extra $1 million. You got an extra $1 million that you're not spending that you can, and he's talking about another $300,000 contingency in another year of the things you need. And I'm afraid if you do option 1, you're so far getting back to doing option. I mean, let's be honest, when we, 20, however many years ago it was, when you built the grade school there in the first place, there was a plan to maybe put the junior high with it at that time.
Oh, really? Okay.
And here we are now, 20 years later, saying, hey, let's put the junior high with it. Well, we didn't really feel that option very well from the original plan with that grade school. So, and I'm just want to be aware that, what we do today, I just don't want to put any roadblocks in front of spending for down the road.
Ms. Ludwig.
I think one of the biggest concerns that I have heard from people is gym space. And talking to people, people bring it up, that's one of their main concerns. And I think it's important to have that. I would probably lean toward option 3 just because the sooner we can get to the point that we can go ahead and think about adding space, that we need to do that. And so I would lean more toward option 3, just from what I'm hearing from people who live in this community, that's a concern.
Ms. Hicks.
I'm still confused where the gym goes. I mean, if that's where we need to get to in the future and we need another gym, where does it go?
Well, did they
Is it-
address, did
is it
they
a
address that
relocatable?
when we talked about it?
They did. I asked them to do a tentative drawing basically on the, where the parking lot is,
On the
On
south
the-
side?
No,
on
no.
the north side.
Oh, okay,
On the north side. We've got a lot of grass there.
right.
It's vacant behind those houses.
Yeah.
So right in there, we talked about, hey, it'd be nice to be able to have a building to start with, could do it in phases. Start out with a storage room, concessions, your restrooms, and then build that in a way so then you could when the money is there, you don't have it right away, then you could build that auxiliary gym right there behind it because you've got all that room there as well.
And
And
then,
that was just a tentative, throw it out, what would this work kind of thing.
and then this auxiliary gym is just to be used for PE, sort of classes, like all the kids get marched out there to do PE.
I think it could be used for phys ed. I think it could be used for activities. I didn't really have an idea that this would be maybe a performance gym, be more like a practice gym, be something that could be used by the community, as well. But it just depends on how much you would want to do with it. We didn't go too deep with that. I just asked them to give me something in that area based on some of the needs that I was hearing from the board in terms of all those things. So we haven't really talked about that in a while. But we thought that was kind of the location that best fit our property out there. But it doesn't have to be there.
I think another thing that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's fine.
I think another thing that we talked about was, the boiler at the junior high. If that goes, we're saving, what, $300,000 to fix that?
Yeah.
So if we wait a whole nother year, is that going to happen? And then we're going to have to put money into that?
Yeah.
You don't know. It's a guessing game when you get to
It
that.
is. I think the reality is we know that it's a little bit on life support. If we didn't have such a strong maintenance person in that building, it would not lasted as long as it has. Yeah.
I like option 3 for the getting the kids in there quicker. Option 1, it gives you guys more room at the junior high though. I mean, I hate to squeeze them in again. What's that?
It's still an extra classroom to what they have now. The band wouldn't be on the stage, the band would have its own room.
That band room too can be turned into a regular classroom. We don't need the full 2 classrooms. We could turn that into a regular classroom and then have another classroom, there as well. That's a possibility, that design.
Any additional?
What's that?
Any additional thoughts? I look at these two and I first question, we talked about that this was a thought, bringing the junior high here. This is a tough fit. You look at this, the way this building is designed, we're doing the best we can with the space we have. I don't think we're gonna find a good answer because the concerns have been raised. We're still, the gym, this auxiliary gym is detached. It's not part of the main building, but it's all we can do. My fear is, like some other board members, is by going with option 1, we push that farther down the road. I've heard that, like Ms. Ludwig, I hear it all the time, gym, because we use our gymnasiums a lot. So I like the fact that option 3 is more within our budget, let's say. And I've worked in buildings, I've worked in schools where we have the second floor. It's so much easier to have 1 floor. Just from the sheer perspective, yes, we've got the accessibility through the elevator, but what happens if the elevator goes down? What happens if there's issues? Because it won't happen year 1, but year 15, something will happen to that elevator and we won't be able to, our students with accessibility needs aren't gonna be able to make that second floor. I like the first 1 floor. I really like 1 floor option. I support option 3 as well. So you got all the answers you need, Mr. Mayor?
Well, this is a good discussion. I mean, this is important what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I appreciate everybody's engagement here. I know you've been thinking about this.
I think it's important to know we're not taking board action tonight. This isn't, so everybody in the group knows, this isn't, even if we say option 3, this is a straw poll. This is what we can do to help direct Mr. Maynard to get some of the costs.
I have a question, as like an outsider, not knowing any of what you guys have done, but if none of these fit the needs that we actually need, like a gym or maybe even a library, why isn't those included? Like, why isn't even?
Sure. The ESSER funds that we have available to us from the federal government is specific on what we can use the money for. And we were the first school district, to my knowledge, that basically reached out and says, hey, we've got an issue at our junior high. We can't improve ventilation it was all COVID related. And so basically based on those guidelines, we can't just say, hey, we would like to have a gym. we had to basically write our proposal to the State Board of Education saying, this is how we'd like to use these funds. Is it approved? And so that's why we have to focus on, it all tied into the facility that we have at the junior high, can't do anything better with ventilation and those types of things. And it was a concern. So we're, like anything, when you're given a grant, when you're giving federal dollars, this is the first time, I think, historically, that the federal government has allowed construction to be done with their money. But because we're writing it and showing it in a way that it's going to help our kids because of the COVID situation we experienced, that's why we're dealing with this with the money we have. Hope that helps a little bit. Okay, good question.
With the proposed budget savings over time that you estimated at 200 to 400,000 per year, would that allow money for them getting on a gym sooner rather than later?
Yeah, I think
Is that money able to then be reallocated toward building projects?
it is. A lot of it's because of the way that Michelle has been writing some things. You want to say anything about that, Michelle, or not really?
Well, it's kind of the same thing, that if we're taking money district money we would have spent on a normal year and put it into ESSER funds, Title I, Title II, Title IV, it just frees up money at the district level. And with that, we have a healthier budget to do more things. So we're able to supplant in ESSER 3, which gives us the opportunity of things that we have paid for with district money to now be paid for in the grant. And like one example is just the software program we use. That's, let's just say one of them is $48,000 for a 3-year. That would come out of district funds in the 3 years. Well, now 48,000 will come out of that. So that's a healthier budget for the district. So I have to figure out ways to make them COVID related and to tie in, and it's been an interesting summer to do that. But because of that, our budget would be healthier to do that. And if we had savings at the junior high, it would go into the same pot that savings would go into as well.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. It's a good question. All right, so is it fair to say that at this point tomorrow, when I talk to Diana Vargas from Amoresco, that I can say, you've heard the conversation tonight, so that way she knows the interest of the board. Say we haven't made a decision yet, but it looks like at this time we would be leaning more towards option 3. Definitely not option 2, is kind of what I heard. Is that right? But there's also still some interest in option 1, and a lot of that was based on things that you talked about, and obviously the square footage is different, which I think is a question that needs to be talked about. Is that what I'm hearing? I'm not trying to be presumptuous, so I just want to be clear so we can have that conversation tomorrow. And any of you are welcome to join with me on any of those conversations. If you want to be in on that, I'll schedule the time with Diana and join the conversation.
Are we at a point that we need to make a decision by a certain point to get this started? I mean, tonight we're not taking a vote on it, but when do we need to do that? By when?
Quickly. So
I'm just saying, do we need to have a special meeting?
we do, and we need to have a special meeting probably anyway. Probably, we'll talk about that, but maybe even as early as next week, Thursday, for some other things I'm going to mention. We could have 2 topics on there, but that could be the night when we make a final decision on where we're going to go. But I think we do have to make a decision here pretty quick. So, yeah. So I think we need to address that next Thursday in a special meeting. I think we also need to have a special meeting next Thursday, if it's okay with Mr. Smith and the board, that to also have that in regards to return to learn plan. our community. And those are two important things. So, sorry, I got ahead of you there. Apologize.
And please, as I mentioned, I'd like to see what the administrators' thoughts are on these.
Okay, got it.
You want to make sure
You're
that,
probably on vacation.
I will reach out to them tomorrow since we've had our meeting tonight.
I want to make sure that some of the questions like was proposed, and we've had those kind of cursory discussions with them, but are they positive we can make the needs of the gymnasium cafeteria work?
Yes, sir. Okay. Okay for me to go on to the next item then?
Please, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, taking a lot of time here tonight. So the next item is the tentative proposed budget for July 1. You saw that in your board packet. Just so you know, they'll be adjusted for August because there have been some expenditures that have come up recently that are going to impact that. One had to do with IMRF penalty from 2015. That we'll have to take care of. So we've got that placed in there, and we'll be taking on some unanticipated, going in prior to me putting this together, some legal fees, just related to arbitration. So I've got to figure that in as well. And yeah, I think those are the two biggest things. So I'll have something. It will be, the surplus will be less when you see it next month, but we'll still be okay. So I'll have that ready for you next month. If you have any questions between now and then, please feel free to reach out to me. The next item is the risk management plan. So that is a plan. I don't know if, as a board, if you've had a chance to review that in past years with prior superintendents, but this is something that really should be reviewed and adopted at the board level. Typically, it'll be every couple years that it gets looked at. And there's, you send out a survey, you get feedback from your administrators and people that are in your plan, so you know how they're using their time, and this thing will be adjusted. So I started looking into this pretty heavily because with your risk management plan, you're basically paying a portion of someone's salary based on, out of that tort fund, based on what they're doing in terms of things like supervision and being at risk and that type of thing. So when I looked at our current plan, I think it needed to be adjusted. I don't think when it was, things change. So I think when it was written and where we're at today isn't a true representation of really what's on paper. So you saw in the board packet that I sent you of some of the adjustments that were made in terms of the percentages, okay? And so I think we need to have a truer representation of our risk management plan. And I think we need to do that also in terms of having a more accurate document for our taxpayers. If someone comes and says, hey, Mr. Maynard, this is coming out of the tort fund. What is it that you're paying for? To be able to show it and be able to have a better percentage rate there. Some of this started out of conversations I had with Mr. Russ Lee, our auditor, who has mentioned that we've had some areas that were a little high in percentage than he probably felt was best. And so I took that information in and made some adjustments as well. So this risk management plan you have before you now, it is accurate with what exactly we're doing. And I would like to be able to approve this tonight later in an action item because we're using this as far as payroll. And then I would also like to make a commitment that it gets revisited every couple of years. So that way we're staying on top of this. So I think it's a good routine. Any questions on the risk management plan? Okay, thank you. Return to school, I talked about that earlier, so I'll go quick on this, but I just wanted to highlight just a few things. So you heard a little bit earlier, and I'm running it through the grid and having it reviewed, as many eyes on it as we can have, the better the plan will be, knowing that the plan will need to be flexible and adaptable based on circumstances. But some of the key things I mentioned earlier, recommended use of appropriate PPE or the face mask indoors for individuals who are not fully vaccinated. Recommended is key word there. Staff and students who are not fully vaccinated are recommended to wear a mask indoors, okay? Doing our social distancing as much as possible. And one of the things that has to be mentioned is that the CDC guidelines state specifically that the only place that masks are required is on bus transportation. So anytime a student is riding a bus, whether it's, the preschool route, anything we do with transportation, if they're on a yellow bus or a white bus, even if it's extracurriculars, the CDC has required that you have a mask on. The reason being, that's the only place that it's required. The reason being, from what I read through, is it's related to you're not able to social distance as much on a bus because they're allowing us this year to have full capacity on our buses, which we weren't able to have last year. So that's really the only requirement that has come to us in regards to masking. Other than that, we're just encouraging people to stay home when they're sick, but we're going to return to a typical school day, 5 days a week, in-person instruction, 8 to 3. We're wanting to get our activities and things moving forward, back to normal, field trips, and let's get this back to looking the Oakwood way long before some of these things happen. And this is in line with what the other Vermilion County schools are doing as well. So once we get that reviewed and get that finalized, I want to get some communication out, as soon as possible, probably after a special board meeting. And we can get things moving for our community and they can make some decisions. So any questions on that? Just a brief synopsis.
In the agenda, you mentioned Shield, Illinois.
Thank you. So Shield, Illinois is something that has come to us through the University of Illinois. And it's basically the saliva testing program that they use. And they're trying to get more school districts to jump on board with that. And I spent a lot of time yesterday on the phone with some people that work at the U of I and are in healthcare. So they're using this program. When I looked through that, the cons outweighed the pros. I don't know how. Let me find my sheet on that. I just wanted to explore it. Anytime something like that comes your way, they're making it free to schools now. It was at a cost. So let me just share with you this Shield, Illinois testing program. So this would be really valuable. This would be really valuable scientific data for early detection of those who are asymptomatic for transmission and spread of the virus if everyone opts into the program. If people opt out of the program, you don't have a true scientific data. That's the problem. Because parents would give consent. I would want my son or daughter to be a part of this or not. And so that really then kind of defeats your purpose of what you're trying to capture. I think it's great in theory. I'm sure there's some school districts north of Interstate 80 that have multiple facilities and have a lot of excess staff, and they can pull this off campus and everything else. That's not really the situation you're in your smaller rural districts downstate. So that's the pro, I think. It's great in theory, but in terms of the cons, we're still waiting on IDPH guidance that hasn't been updated for exclusion since last spring. The American Academy of Pediatrics just came out with guidance that totally contradicts the CDC guidance. I don't know how we would practically implement, that testing system after talking to the U of I personnel. There are no third-party labs nearby that would basically take care of this for you. Decatur's the closest one. So how long would it take to get it there and get it back? And then do kids have to be out of school now for 3 days while we're waiting for results, even though they had no symptoms, but we're just waiting on a test? So location in our facilities, we would not really have a place to do that. I think on top of everything else that our nurses are doing, I just don't know how we would implement it without having to add staff. And I don't know how we would implement it adding another schedule, to our schools. I think about, you've got a kindergarten student that needs to go to a location somewhere in the building to go through this process if the parent had opted in. Well, you can't just, it's not like a junior in high school. You can just say, this is where you go. You got to walk with those kids and make sure they get where they need to be. So there's just a lot of concerns with how to implement this. They're looking at doing some testing 2 days a week. Okay, so what if you miss a day? If they're testing on Tuesday and Thursday, if I miss Thursday, what's that mean? So I think there are a lot of situations there, and the other thing that kind of plays into this that I feel personally that we need to try to stay away from, and I mentioned earlier, is we got to be careful that we don't make decisions that I think force separating and segregating people, especially kids. And so if you start to testing people now, some are okay, some are green, some are red, and now you're starting to do this. And again, this is my personal feeling on it. Just looking into this, I feel like that is a bad situation for kids who are already, whether they know it or not, and in some ways are socially, emotionally traumatized from last year. It's just the impact that this has had on our kids and families. So that's my tip sheet on just kind of looking into that. But I felt like it was my duty to at least explore it. But after looking into it more, I now know why a lot of our school districts aren't jumping in downstate just right now. But that was what I wanted to share with you about Shield, Illinois. Sorry about that. I mentioned that earlier.
Any questions for Mr. Maynard? Curriculum, Ms. Kimbrough.
There hasn't been much curriculum this summer. It's been grant writing. But the good news is, so for ESSER 2, we put a set aside money to be used for construction, which 2 wasn't essentially written for that. It was just a continuation of 1, and it was approved. So the pocket of money that we took out to bridge the learning gap, I can put back in ESSER 3 for construction. So I can flip flop those out as well. So that is huge. The second thing is that right now we're sitting on fiscal year 1 and fiscal year 2, ESSER 1, ESSER 2, writing ESSER 3, and digital equity all at the same time. So all these grants are going on. So every purchase, which I'm sure when you went through the bill, 90% of it was mine, but so everything had to fit a slot. So ESSER 1 is no carryover, so I had to drain it. And then Title 1 had to come within 10% of each line item or we lose that money. And then with the new one, so it's just been a lot of math, just a lot of math all summer. So, but the big news is that we had that carryover and I had to explain why and do a lot of work to get it, but well worth it because now that's really $500,000 we can put towards the project. So, and then I'm working on ESSER 3, which is just a nightmare. It's a lot because of the construction. It's just new territory for me. So working on it.
You're doing a great job.
I like that. Well, we'll see what the state says. That's what I submit. So, but really that's been my whole summer and buying. I bought a lot of stuff.
Any questions for Ms. Kimbrough? Thank you. Oakwood High School, Mr. Odell.
Well, thank you for the opportunity that I have to be the new principal. I've been in it about 2 weeks now and the building's still standing and everybody's still okay. So we're doing well. But I want to first introduce Mr. Kyle Shelton, who's our new assistant principal and athletic director. We started work on 1 July. He's been doing a great job cleaning up the mess that the old lady left him. So kudos for that. But no, we're working well together. It's great to have him on staff. It's great to have somebody else in the building in August besides just the principal. I know how Tim felt about that. So just a couple highlights. You've got my report. The building's on schedule. They're working in the gym and sealing that, so the building should be in great shape to start. I'm also looking at a cycle of every 5 years doing 2 to 3 rooms to make sure that we can paint them and get them to where they can stay nice and kids enjoy the rooms. New teachers coming in are, when you're recruiting a new teacher to come and teach at your school, if the room looks like it hasn't been taken care of in 5 years, that's a pretty good turnoff. So we want to make sure that our teachers have pride in their rooms. So we're looking at doing that. Student handbook, there's been changes. Our student handbooks had to be ordered back in April. So those are already here, but with the way the laws are coming down from the governor, there's things that we really need to put in. So the student handbook is a good guide for the students, but the actual handbook is online. So we're going to make changes. I'll make recommendations for that at the next meeting so that we can get the latest information, at least on the online version, and then we can update the students as we go through and the parents. The big topic right now is homecoming weekend. So you're probably going to be hearing some issues with homecoming weekend. I'll take all the responsibility for that, all right? We have no officials for a Friday night football game. We're trying to keep everything else on schedule. The parade will be on Friday night, just like it always is. But the football game is going to be on Saturday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's against Bismarck. There is a severe shortage of officials throughout the state of Illinois. We have officials coming as far as 45 minutes south of Springfield towards St. Louis, coming all the way up here to do a game in October. So we're reaching out as far as we can. You're going to see more, and you saw a little bit of this during the pandemic. There were Thursday night varsity football games. There were Saturday afternoon varsity football games, and then you had a few Friday night games. There's just not the officials out there. And the pandemic kind of exacerbated that a little bit because some of the older officials, the pandemic said, we're going to stop right now. They're not coming back. We don't have younger officials coming in, despite the IHSA giving free testing for new students coming into the, like if I have a high school senior and they want to be an official, I can give that senior a waiver. They don't have to pay any of the fees for the first year to take their IHSA officiating license. So that's out there, but the kids are not, most of them are going on to college, playing sports. They're just not ready to do that. So everything else is going to run as close to scheduled as possible. It's just the game, which caused a lot of issues with preparing for the dance on Saturday night. The girls got to get their nails done. They got to get their hair done. Guys, some of the football players, but we're going to be so sore. So you're going to hear all that. We have a homecoming weekend. We're planning it just like it was before the pandemic. Now, we could have to make changes, but we're planning it just like it was pre-pandemic, where they come in, they can dance, they can do all the things that they're used to doing and trying to make it as normal as possible. The football game, I can't do a whole lot about, okay? So we're going to try to look out as far as we can. Our new AD is already looking out as far as we can, actually out to 2025, and trying to get those Friday night football game nights, get those officials as soon as possible. But we weren't able to do that in the past because, one, we've added football teams to the schedule, which has changed the dynamics, and then the whole pandemic thing kind of eliminated a bunch of official sports. So I wanted to let you know about that because you may get some calls from some parents about the dance and the football game being close together. I'm trying to field all those and keep it out of this area, but I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. I think that's all I'm going to turn it over to, I'm so used to doing the sports portion. I just want to get into sports. Homecoming, I thought was mine. I'll let you move on unless you have any more questions for me.
One quick question I do have when it comes to things like homecoming week, swap days, will that change the way that looks?
I'm sorry.
Swap days, will that, with homecoming, will things such as swap days change with the current?
We did that last year.
Yeah, we've got
Still,
swap day.
okay, I didn't.
Yeah, we got swap day in the middle of the week during homecoming. So that's a chance for the parents to come in and see the classes and also see some of the homecoming decorations and things within the school building. So that started before the pandemic, I think the last year before the pandemic. That's the way it worked out. It's kind of working out that way right now. So I think we'll continue to do that.
Okay, I just didn't know with.
We, obviously the return to learn plan is gonna have some say on that because we have visitors in the building. If we can't, then swap day is probably gonna have to change. But as long as we have visitors in the building, we're gonna go with it.
Any other questions for Mr. Odom? Thank you. Mr. Shelton.
First off, I'd like just to thank the Board of Education, Mr. Maynard, and especially Mr. Odom, especially. I've been on the job for 3 weeks now, and I know I've had a ton of questions. And Mr. Odom, I'm sure I'm driving him nuts by now, but I want to say thank you to everybody, and I'm super excited to serve the Oakwood community and get started. And so here I go with my first report. So I may not have all the answers for your questions, but Mr. Odom might be able to help me with that. So football and all the fall sports have either finished their camps or either last week or the previous week to that. We are planning a Gatorade soap game, and that will be planned for August the 20th at 7 p.m. For the football, 4:30 for volleyball, and the junior pro is going to go at 6 o'clock. We're still in the planning process of that, but we'd like to get that going as well. So that's on August the 20th. The first home football game will be on September the 3rd. The first actual game is on the 27th at Moments. And the first home game will be against Iroquois West at 7. And then volleyball, their first game of the season will be at Leroy on Monday, August the 23rd at 6 p.m. And their first home game is August the 31st against Heritage. Cheerleaders completed their camp last week, and they had a chance to perform their routine in front of parents at the LHS gym on Friday, July the 16th. And I was there watching. They did a fantastic job. And golf, currently right now we're possibly in transition. We're looking into a possibility of switching home courses to Turtle Run from Harrison Park due to Harrison Park switching management. And just recently they've gotten management, so we're still trying to figure out where that home course will be. And their first match of the season is Friday, August the 13th versus Bismarck, Milford, and Houston. And cross country, their first meet of the season will be at St. Thomas More on Saturday, August the 28th at 9 a.m. And soccer, their first match will be at home versus St. Joe Ogden on August the 23rd at 4:30 p.m. And as far as the fall schedules go, they are finalized now and currently working on confirming all the winter schedules. Right now, I have a couple games here and there already. Trying to fill the schedule out and working on more at the moment. As far as projects are concerned, we are working on football and soccer fields being sprayed for clover and weeds, and then also the soccer dugout. Apparently, our old visiting soccer dugout was blown into the tree line and demolished. It was complete loss. So we are working on that with some local, we looked into some building supplies, and we've had some people in the community donate, possibly donate some metal. Mr. Wins that he might have some that he might be able to donate as well, so appreciate that. And the softball, we've received an estimate for $3,200 for top dressing for the softball field, and we're looking at funding from the Booster Club, the Oakwood Men's Club, and AD activity funds, as well as the softball funds to try to fill that cost. And as far as coaching needs are concerned, we've posted the head coach for the cross country. We're still currently looking for a cross country coach, and we are recommending Rice Thrasher for the OHS dance coach tonight. And then we also have an anticipated golf opening due to resignation. Coach Coughlin. And I guess my last thing is that all fall sports will start on August the 9th. That's the first official start date for the IHSA. If you have any questions for me, I guess sorry, I have one more thing. This is not on your board packet, but Coach Mandrell, our high school boys basketball coach, was nominated for Coach of the Year by the IBCA, Women's Basketball Coaches Association. And he will attend a meeting or a banquet on August the 28th at Red Bird Arena in Bloomington. The school, along with the OHS Booster Club, would like to honor Coach Mandrell and put an ad in that banquet. So I'd like to thank the Booster Club and also the school district for doing that for Coach Mandrell. So had a great season last year. Now, I guess if you have any questions for me or Mr. Earl.
Good. Any questions for Mr. Shelton? Thank you, sir. Oakwood Junior High and Miss Burton, Miss Lepenis, and Miss Acton could not make it tonight. We do have their reports in our packets. Technology, Mr. Richardson.
So Michelle's been spending all the money, and I've been implementing the technology she's procured the money for. So that's been my summer so far. The new Chromebooks, new labs at the high school, new labs at the grade school, all new computers for teachers at junior high and high school, new monitors. We've gotten the rest of the Promethean boards for the grade school. Unfortunately, due to a shortage, we haven't got the Promethean boards for the junior high and high school yet. Hopefully they'll come soon, but as soon as we get them, they're going to go in. I'll have all the cables run. I'll have the new computers in ready to go. So it's been a busy summer so far. So just getting ready with everything new we've got.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Richardson? Transportation, Ms. Lunt.
We don't have much going on. We're getting the buses ready for the new year. We've got our state inspections done, working on getting the oil changes done now and getting some of our buses cleaned up. We got a little bit of muddy at the end of last year. That's kind of what we've been working on this summer. We got our new white bus in. If anyone hasn't seen that, it's really nice this year. But definitely that's great. That's about it.
Any questions for Ms. Lunt? Thank you.
We're also working on those preschool routes, aren't we?
Yes, I'm gonna
So-
start contacting parents tomorrow. Actually, a majority of the students, though, we don't even have in our system. So we're gonna have to get that taken care of.
We'll be transporting our preschool kids again this year.
Maintenance, Mr. Siddons.
The buildings are coming along. I think about all the classrooms are done. They're down to hallways. The two gyms have been finished. So the grade school and the high school, we did not do the junior high this year. Michelle told me this week that my year's getting busier instead of slower. She approved some hands-free faucets, plumbing in the buildings. Also hand dryers in all the buildings. So, and then she's telling me that there's some more coming through yet that's going to be approved. We looked at putting on new blinds at the high school because those blinds have been probably 40 years old or older. So that'll really help the looks of the classrooms, and they're going to be darkened so that the technology can be used better. It's no glare and stuff in the room. So that's a big plus at the high school. Otherwise, it's going to be busy until school starts.
You're just in the same boat as me, Michelle. Procuring all the money and we're implementing it.
And if Chris gets all the Promethean boards,
John
it'll
is a
be
big help.
24/7.
John is a big help with Promethean board.
So a lot going on.
Any questions? Sir? Old business, I think we discussed the building. Any other discussion for the old business we need to? Okay. No new business. Agenda item number 10, we have no need to go into closed session. Agenda item number 11, consideration and action. 11A, we have a recommendation to approve the Oakwood Grade School, Oakwood Junior High School, and Oakwood High School student handbooks for the 2021-2022 school year as presented.
Just say one item there on that, Mr. Smith, is that we'll actually get the high school one next month because they want to have a more accurate document. So would it be okay to amend the agenda to not have the high school handbook included. Sorry about that, Mr. Oldle. I just wanted to be prepared just in case.
Make a motion to approve the Oakwood grade school and Oakwood junior high school student handbooks.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Motion by Janeski, seconded by Hicks, was that correct?
Yes.
I think you thought it was recorded. To approve the Oakwood grade school and Oakwood junior high handbooks as presented. Janeski,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Ludwig? Yes. Plattner?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 2.
Agenda item 11B, we have a recommendation to approve the 2021-2022 risk management plan as presented. Manager, do you have anything additional for that?
Nothing additional.
Do I have a motion to accept the recommendation as presented?
I'll move.
Mr. Plattner, second.
Second.
Ms. Ludwig, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Motion by Plattner, seconded by Ludwig, to approve the 21-22 risk management plan as presented. Lynn,
Yes.
Ludwig? Yes. Plattner?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
Janeski?
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 3.
Agenda item 11C, we have a recommendation to adopt a working cash fund bond resolution of intent. This resolution declaring the intention to issue working cash fund bonds for the purpose of increasing the working cash fund of the district. Anything further on that, Mr. Mayor?
Nothing further to add. Again, just want to clarify, this is an intent. It's not the actual paperwork beyond. That'll be the next step after the petition period.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Ms. Ludwig?
Second.
Mr. Lynn? Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Motion by Ludwig, seconded by Lynn, to approve the working cash bond resolution as presented. Ludwig? Yes. Plattner?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
Janeski?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 4.
Agenda item 11D, we have a recommendation to employ Arthur O'Meara to fill the 8th grade social studies vacancy at Oakwood Junior High School beginning the 2021-2022 school year. He does have a bachelor's degree and will be on step 1 of the teacher salary schedule.
See, I think Mrs. Burton may have given me a narrative here, so I'll share that with you. Mr. O'Meara comes from Northern Illinois University. He is an Illinois State University graduate. He's completed his student teaching in Peoria and the UK. Mr. O'Meara's references shared. He is positive, energetic, and will go the extra mile. Very passionate about his content and excited to join our team.
We have a motion to approve the recommendation to employ Arthur O'Meara.
So moved.
Mr. Lynn?
Second.
Mr. Plattner? Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Motion by Lynn, seconded by Plattner, to approve Arthur O'Meara employment as presented. Plattner?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
Janeski?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 5.
Agenda item 11E, we have a recommendation to employ Daniela McConville as Oakwood High School agriculture teacher and FFA advisor for the 2021-2022 school year. She has a bachelor's degree and will be on step 1 of the teacher salary schedule.
She is excited to be coming here. She's from Western Illinois University. She went to high school at Mendota, was involved in their ag program the whole time. I talked with the ag director at Western Illinois University. She was the senior academic honor for agriculture last year. So excited to have her, and she's excited to be coming down. Anxious to work together.
Do I have a motion to accept the recommendation to employ Daniela McConville?
Yes.
Mr. Platt?
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Motion by Hicks to approve Daniela McConville employment as presented. Smith?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
Janeski?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
Ludwig? Yes. Plattner?
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 6.
Agenda item 11F, we have a recommendation to employ Ashley Knox for the position of interventionist special education teacher for the 2021-2022 school year. She has a bachelor's degree and will be on step 1 of the teacher salary schedule.
I do not have any additional information. Do you, Michelle?
Probably the most important information is I will be taking her salary and benefits out of ESER three.
Okay.
So she will not, the district, well, like I said, will employ her, but I think I can do her 2 years in ESER three because my cutoff.
I am in absolute awe. It's 500 and some special ed positions statewide can't be filled, and nobody to fill them. You guys have found 2 of them.
Yeah.
2 candidates in the last 3 months.
Well, one was the homegrown, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Do I have a motion to accept the recommendation of employee Ashley Knox?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Ludwig, Ms. Hicks. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Motion by Ludwig, seconded by Hicks to approve Ashley Knox employment as presented. Hicks,
Yes.
Janeski,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Plattner,
Yes.
Yes.
motion carried by roll call vote 7.
Agenda item 11G, we have a recommendation to employ Rice Thrasher, she, the dance comments coach on step 1 of extracurricular schedule.
Yes, she's from, she lives in Muncie. She works at Carl. She was a Comet herself when she was in high school. And I believe her mom was the coach when she was. So she has the background. She's excited. She's been itching to get with the girls and start practicing because obviously football season's starting pretty soon. They want to be able to put on a halftime performance. So we're excited to have her and she's excited to be here. So thank you.
Do I have a motion to accept the recommendation of employee Rice Thrasher?
So moved.
Mr. Janeski? Second.
Second.
Ms. Ludwig. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Motion by Janeski, seconded by Ludwig to approve Rice Thrasher employment as presented. Janeski,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Ludwig, yes. Plattner,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 8.
Agenda item 11H, we have a recommendation to employ Amy Baumeister to fill the English teacher vacancy. She has a master's degree and will be on step 3 of the teacher salary schedule.
Yes, Amy worked for us for 2 years, went back, got her master's degree, was looking at some outside things, but then realized when we used her last year for a couple hours to fill in for us when we had a couple hours the second semester to fill in for us when we really had a need for English. And I think Ms. Kimbrough can attest to the need that we had because she did a lot of the curriculum work. But Amy's coming back to us. We're excited to have her. She's excited to be here and good to have her back on staff.
Do I have a motion to accept the offer to employ Amy Baumeister?
So moved.
Mr. Lynn?
Second.
Ms. Plattner? Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Motion by Lynn, seconded by Plattner to approve Amy Baumeister employment as presented. Lynn,
Yes.
Ludwig, yes. Plattner,
Yes.
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Janeski.
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 9.
At the current time, our next regular meeting will be August 18, 2021 at 5:30 PM. We do have a special meeting, August 18, 2021 at 5:15 PM for the public hearing of the proposed tentative budget fiscal year 2022. Do I have a motion to adjourn
I'm sorry. Do we want to see if we can schedule a special meeting next week, Thursday, the 29th, for the purpose of the return to school plan and to revisit the designs? Is that,
what day is that, 29?
I've got Thursday, July 29th at 5:30, just as a proposal.
Do we have the calendars? We can take a quick look.
I won't be out of town.
Mr. Lyons out.
I'm okay.
You're okay? Okay.
Is there a better day for you, Mr. Lynn?
Well, I'm out all week next week.
Okay.
So I have gone through this and I'd be very glad to send somebody my thoughts on it, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Mr. Janeski, are you available?
I'm good.
Ms. Plattner? Okay. I don't have my calendar, but I don't think I have anything next Thursday. So 10, we will have the special meeting on Thursday, July 29th at 5:30 PM.
Okay.
Do I have a motion to adjourn at 7:16 PM?
So
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Motion by Lynn, seconded by Ludwig to adjourn at 7:16 PM. Ludwig. Yes. Plattner.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Janeski.
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote, James.